It's over for us. Release of new AI video generator Seedance 2.0 spooks Hollywood. Hollywood is real spooked, I guess. Well, I'm not too spooked. So this is what the new Seedance 2.0 AI is capable of. We're going to be looking at a couple of other examples that I've cultivated. I did a little bit of research before the stream, but let's take a look at what it does that people are so worried about. This was reported on by CBS News Los Angeles.
Biggest stars going head to head in an action-packed showdown. Tom Cruise versus...
Okay, so that's fake. So this is the fake AI thing. So they throw a couple punches. There's like a exchange there. So what do we make of something like this? What is there to be worried about? I think a good place to start with why something like this isn't too much to worry about is let's actually think of why film studios pay literally tens of millions of dollars to have people like Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt in their movies. Let's actually really think about why they do that. Why that is such a primary expense when it comes to movies. Is it just because there's someone who looks like them? Is that really why they spend all of that money on Tom Cruise? Because a person who has this exact face is worth $10 million, whereas 99.9% of all other people on Earth are not? Is that really why? I don't think so. I think that the reason that the studios spend so much money on people like Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt is because people like Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. And this actually isn't Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt unless you lied. Like if you lie and you just deceive everyone and you make a movie with Tom Cruise's likeness and pretend that it was actually Tom Cruise, first of all, you probably would get found out in some way just because, you know, let's say even like further down the road, like completely perfect, you'd be able to just trick everyone, which might not be possible. It'd be a heck of a conspiracy. First of all, you'd have to get Tom Cruise to lie about it, or any actor. You'd have to get them to lie about it. You have to get everyone involved. You'd have to almost create like a fake story of like making a movie. It just seems odd. It just seems like a lot to go through in order to, you know, do this. So there is a reason that they pay. So there's a couple of other things about this that I think is important to note about why it looks better than other stuff. This happens every time there's a new advancement like this. We saw this with Sora 2 not too long ago. It's over. It is going to take over Hollywood. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. We see this every time. We're seeing it with this too. And this one is a little more sinister, which we will get into in just a bit as to why it's more sinister. Glad there's companies like DreamWorks and DC Comics that are anti-AI. Are DreamWorks and DC Comics anti-AI? That's interesting. I did not know that. It's funny, the company that I know the most is anti-AI is Illumination of all things. I saw that they had comments about it. Unfortunately, Disney is not anti-AI. We're going to talk about them in a second. The Bad Guys 2 had a little bit at the end credits saying this movie may not be used to train AI. That's so interesting. That probably won't stop them from doing it. I mean, let's talk about how they might try to stop them. So let's talk about some of the controversies here. So SAG-AFTRA slams blatant infringement in Seedance AI video. Blatant infringement. SAG-AFTRA is joining the industry condemnation of ByteDance, the Chinese owner of TikTok. Oh yeah, it's the like TikTok owners that made it. Don't they not own TikTok anymore? Wasn't there a whole thing with America? I don't know. That's a whole other subject. For releasing a new video model that has enabled widespread copyright infringement online. So that's a pretty big stance for it to take, that calling it copyright infringement. Because I believe because this is something so new, it's hard to like legally define it as copyright infringement. Obviously, I think that it should be legally defined as copyright infringement, but it is like such a new thing that it's very hard to do. Although maybe there is legal precedent that this is just copyright infringement, which we'll talk about in a bit, about how Seedance is a bit more steely than other obviously all AI steals, but this Seedance is a little more steely than others, which we will talk about in a bit. SAG-AFTRA President Sean Astin is among those whose likeness has been used in videos generated by the model, Seedance 2.0. In the video, he appears in the role of Samwise Gamgee from Lord of the Rings, saying, "Mr. Frodo, why don't we just take the eagle straight to Mount Doom?" You know what? I need to comment on this. So this is so okay. In the video, let's see the video. What is the video? Oh, great. We get to X the everything app. How lovely. Don't miss what's happening. I'm gonna this page doesn't exist. Oh, I wonder if they terminated it. Okay, well, we don't have the video. It's gone. But apparently the video, this AI video as it's being described, is Samwise saying, "Mr. Frodo, why don't we just take the eagle straight to Mount Doom?" You know, I think that this is so telling of the kinds of people who like make stuff with AI and how they are the people who are the opposite of the people that actually make art. Because this is a common joke or sometimes legitimate criticism of the Lord of the Rings. In the Lord of the Rings, there are these giant eagles that they can fly on. And I believe, you know, I haven't seen Lord of the Rings. I gotta watch it. I'm such a big Game of Thrones guy. I haven't watched Lord of the Rings. Or read it. I've read Game of Thrones, but I should get into Lord of the Rings. But to my understanding, there is a point in Lord of the Rings where they fly home on these like giant eagles. But most of the Lord of the Rings, or a good part of the adventure, the journey of Lord of the Rings, is going to Mount Doom, and they like have to walk or whatever. Or what this, why don't we take the eagles to Mount Doom? It's a criticism of that where they say, okay, if they took the eagles back from Mount Doom, why didn't they just take the eagles there? Why did they have to go on the dangerous journey? And I believe that there is an in-universe explanation for why the eagles wouldn't take them to Mount Doom. I don't know the in-universe explanation, but I believe that there is one. But also, it's someone who doesn't understand the narrative that them going to Mount Doom is the journey. So someone who would go, why don't we just take the eagle straight to Mount Doom, and use AI to have it be like, yeah, isn't this like so silly, this thing that made the story happen? It's because it's an indication that the people who like this stuff, the people who generate these things, are people that do not understand what stories are. So I think that that's very telling that this is what I wish I could see the video itself, but they already took it down. So that might be a little bit of a victory. Illumination dissed AI in one of their Despicable Me 4 teasers. Interesting. I got to research more about Illumination. I don't think I'm as sour on them as most people. Their movies are definitely filled with a lot of writing flaws. But I want to do more. I want to watch more of their movies and actually more deeply analyze them, especially with the Mario Galaxy movie coming out. That's interesting. I heard rumors that Stranger Things used ChatGPT. I know nothing about Stranger Things, so I'm not sure. I think I know what you're referring to. There was a screenshot of someone who was like a Stranger Things writer, and they had ChatGPT open on their computer. That is not evidence that they used it to write the show. I don't know. I would never have ChatGPT open on my computer because I don't use it, unless I was explicitly criticizing it as a critic. But I wouldn't be able to make that accusation because writing TV shows, actually, I would say that even though that's like not a great look, I would say that just having ChatGPT open on a computer, if you're a writer on a TV show, is not an indication that you use it to write the show, because writing a TV show is a really strict collaborative process when you are union writers for big TV shows. So it's pretty unlikely. Not to say that it's good, not to say that anyone should use ChatGPT. I think that no one should. I don't think it has any actual good uses, but I would not make that accusation just based off that. If there's other evidence that something happened, then I would hear that out. The Performers Union called the Seedance videos at SAG-AFTRA called the Seedance videos, which also include Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise fighting on a rooftop, among many others, blatant infringement. Yeah, we saw that earlier. SAG-AFTRA stands with the studios in condemning the blatant infringement enabled by ByteDance's new AI video model, Seedance 2.0. The union said the infringement includes the unauthorized use of our members' voices and likeness. This is unacceptable and undercuts the ability of human talent to earn a livelihood. Seedance 2.0 disregards law, ethics, industry standards, and and basic principles of consent. Responsible AI development demands responsibility, and that does not exist here. Man, it must be hard to be the person who has to make this statement. You know, I'm just like sitting here and I can kind of just say whatever. Imagine like having to make this statement and having to like write it in a certain way, because that probably is not easy. It's probably not easy to be the in charge of SAG-AFTRA, the union, to have Sean Astin. That is not an easy job. Having all those people looking up to you, not an easy job. Disney also sent a cease and desist letter to ByteDance General Counsel John Rogovin on Friday. Yeah, so Disney sent a cease and desist to this thing that does the AI. Now, this is interesting. Let's talk about the Disney thing. I'm not conflicted about the cease and desist. I am obviously 100% on, crazy to say this, Disney's side. You know, they send a cease and desist to these people who are using AI to infringe on their characters. I am on the side of Disney for that specifically. That's so crazy to say, right? Like, imagine like 10 years ago, if I told myself 10 years ago, hey, you're going to side with Disney on a copyright case. I'd be like, no way. No way. Because I think that they were trying to like extend Mickey Mouse again. But nope. Here I am siding with Disney on a copyright case. Obviously, there is something to worry about, though, because Disney is not anti-AI. We were talking a little bit about there were other companies that are anti-AI. Disney's not one of them. You know, there's the thing that they said not too long ago where they said that they were going to have people were going to be able to make AI generated shorts on Disney Plus. Of course, that was their old CEO that announced that, and now they have a different CEO, so maybe that's not going to happen. You know, I didn't get like nuts about that. I thought about making a video about it when that happened. That was back in November, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to wait and see if I see the thing, because sometimes corporations, they say this stuff and it doesn't happen. So I'll believe it when I see it. When I see AI generated shorts on Disney Plus, you're definitely going to hear my thoughts on it. That is kind of the first thing that we're worried about. So like, okay, so Disney sues ByteDance. It takes control over it. But then what stops Disney from having a thing where it's like, okay, they just like AI their own characters within their own IP? It's still AI. It's still bad. It's better than it just being completely uncontrolled. But that is the thing that I am nervous about with the whole like Disney is suing them. It's good that Disney is suing them. It's almost the best case scenario, unfortunately, given the circumstances. Singer has led the studio's fight against unlicensed AI video platforms. See, that's what I'm talking about. Let's talk about the problem with AI. And the problem with AI is not copyright infringement. It is bad that it enables copyright infringement on like a wide scale, and that the only way that it can exist is through copyright infringement. That's very hard to identify because it steals from so many different things and mashes them together. It's still stealing from them, but it's hard to identify it. Copyright infringement is a way to deal with AI, but it's not the be all end all, because if it gets to the point where it's like, oh, okay, well, like now we use it, but it's like our licensed Disney AI, that's still pretty bad. And I'm going to fight against that when that happens, because that's pretty inevitable. That's pretty much where this is going. I think we should expect that. What's going to happen with this Seedance stuff, I think it's going to lead to, this idea of licensed AI stuff. And like, that's going to be better, obviously, than just any random person being able to put out garbage that looks like Tom Cruise, that looks like Walter White, but that's still bad. So what we should be worried about with licensed AI stuff with Disney is animated characters. Animated characters are the ones that we should worry about the most. You know, your Disney princesses, your Moanas, your Mickey Mouse. I mean, maybe not even, is Mickey Mouse even popular anymore? Like what does Disney even do that's like animated anymore? I guess maybe the superheroes could fall under this, like the Marvel things. I think it's not going to be a problem when it comes to real actors. When it comes to Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, these people are not going to be okay with AI using their likeness. I'm telling you, these people enjoy that they show up to Hollywood sets and they play their parts and they work for 2 months out of the year. Not to say it's not hard work to be the lead in a movie. It's certainly very difficult work, and they are undeniably very talented. No, you know, you could probably speak negatively on their character as people, which is not really relevant to this, but What people like this are valuable for is their face, is what they are. Their likeness is valuable because it's tied to them. Their likeness is not valuable just because it's their likeness. That just isn't how it works. People do not line up to see movies with Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise because it's someone who looks like Tom Cruise, because they know it's Tom Cruise in the movie. Hollywood, guys, Hollywood is risk averse. Hollywood is incredibly risk averse. No one wants to be the first one to be like, we're going to have the AI generated Tom Cruise movie without Tom Cruise. Even if they could convince Tom Cruise, like, oh, Tom Cruise, we're going to pay you $50 million and you're not going to even have to come to set. I don't know if that would be the arrangement. You'd obviously have to pay the person to like AI generate their likeness. I feel like that would be obvious. As much as I think you shouldn't be allowed to do that, you shouldn't be allowed to AI generate anything. No one wants to be the first person to be like, here's the AI generated Tom Cruise movie, because you're already by default alienating a lot of people. Anyone who cares about it being AI generated is now not buying a ticket to that movie. That is a huge, even if like, let's say even like cynically, and I can't really get a good idea of the population. I know people are anti-AI. Like it's a thing. It is a thing that people don't like it. It might not be as common as I would like it to be. It's really hard to say how common the sentiment is of like being against AI or this or that. But let's say cynically, let's say it's like 75% of people would be fine with it, would like not care. They'd still buy a movie ticket. That might be cynical. We might, as a population, be that dumb. I don't really know. If we've sunk pretty low as a species, so I don't know. Let's say it's 75. That's still a quarter of your profits on your movie gone because of AI. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. And you also, like I said earlier, you still have to pay Tom Cruise to use his likeness. You're not safe. That's the biggest expense, guys. That is you think that getting Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt on a, where is it? I don't even have it. Whatever. Do you think that the generated video, it's Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt on a rooftop and they're fighting? Let's say you were going to film that scene in a movie. Let's say there was a movie and there's a part in the movie where Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt fight each other on a rooftop, just like in the AI generated clip. Let's say that movie existed. Do you know what the biggest expense would be for that scene? It's Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. It's the salary of the actors, the thing that you would have to pay for anyway if they were there, if you AI generated it. Like, I'm not saying it's not expensive to make a shot where someone's on a rooftop and, fighting and all that with the fight choreography and the lighting and all that sort of stuff. I'm not saying that's not expensive. But at that point, you've already sunk so much into just paying for Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. Why don't you just get him out of bed and get him on set at that point? You're paying him all this money. I don't see the point. And also, like, the actors themselves might not be for it. One, because I think they know that it would just like destroy the craft itself. Like you're going to lose your thing that makes you valuable. I mean, some people are cynical, like they don't care about like the next generation or whatever. An AI generated video, Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise fighting, and you can no longer tell it's AI. You can no longer tell it's AI. Yeah, here we are. All right.
You killed Jeffrey Epstein, you animal!
Oh my God! Wait. I did not know that's what it said. I am not laughing at it like it made me laugh. I am laughing. My laughter is pure vitriol towards whoever created this. Okay. All right. Yes, you're very funny. Oh my goodness. It's 7th grader making P. Diddy baby oil jokes tier comedy. All right.
You killed Jeffrey Epstein, you animal! He was a good man! He knew too much about our Russia operations. He had to die, and now you die too.
So I'm sure like a fight choreography expert could be like, hey, here's why this is like not that great of a fight. The thing about fight choreography, there's obviously a precision for it. There's a reason that they have fight choreographers. They make decisions on what a fight is supposed to look like in your movie. So considering that AI can't make decisions like that, there are definitely things that are lacking about this fight that make it less entertaining. Like you can kind of tell that, I mean, even like modern movies can be pretty bad with fight choreography, like in general, like people complain about. In a movie, the best fights are ones that feel very real and raw. Like feel if you've ever seen Barry is so good at fight scenes because, or even just violence in general, because it feels just real. It feels personal, like because that's what a fight is. A fight is personal. A fight is also awkward. Fights are awkward. And a lot of things, and this is even just a general problem with movies, is fights just, you know, they're too fast, they're too punchy and stuff and all that. And something like this, like, sure, it's gonna, I mean, I suppose this fight could like pass in a regular thing, I guess. But, you know, it doesn't have that oomph to it, you know? Another thing I want to talk about is how something about this that I think is going on with Seedance specifically that was not, I think, the case with Sora 2 is Seedance is a little more aggressive with directly taking facial expressions. I think Seedance is a lot more aggressive in that regard. It's hard to say because you'd have to really look to find like the exact face, if there is an exact face, but these look like, it's harder to do with these actors because you'd have to really know movies. But I do have a little bit of an example for you. So this is an anime fight. So this is another Seedance thing. I generated an anime multiverse battle with Seedance 2.0. Goku versus Luffy versus Naruto versus Saitama. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. All right, so this is what we got with this. Okay, so it's like, oh, foot. Okay. So it's like, whatever. Haha, what if Goku fought One Piece? You know, like that. It's that, you know, like that's already, you know, we all know how shallow that is as anything. What if character fought X character? We've all had that conversation, you know, what would Superman beat Goku? You know, all that sort of stuff. So it's just doing that. But I want to talk a bit about the actual like facial expressions here, because these facial expressions are a bit more close to what would be actual. Let me move this a little bit. So I actually went through and looked at, so this is the AI one from this video, and these are real Goku moments. So I couldn't find an exact match. And if anyone can, that'd be great. I don't think you have to really find an exact match. I think the fact that the match is close to the quote unquote real one. Wait, not quote unquote real, the real ones. Why am I saying quote unquote? They are the real ones, but it's so close to the real ones. My main anti-AI argument is that the reason that we should not accept generative AI is because it lacks human intent. So with our human intent, we make choices about what we create, whether that be in writing, whether that be in drawing, whether that be in acting, music making, all that sort of stuff. We make specific choices using our human intent, using our perspective, whether it be our past experiences, what we know about the craft itself, and what we know about how other people will respond to it. And these are things that a computer just doesn't have, because the only way to have these things is to be alive. I guess the most I can say is we don't know where that comes from, where consciousness comes from, where, you know, our perspectives come from, where the thing in our brains that has us make choices, the things that is us, we don't know what it is. We just don't, you know? So my main argument against AI is the circle argument. So basically, the circle argument takes three circles. The blue circle here is any possible outcome of anything. So let's say outcomes could be text, images, human-like voices, video, acting, music. We're talking about Goku here. So let's talk about, I guess, images, a drawing of Goku's face. When it comes to drawing any face at all, there is a finite amount of outcomes, technically. Like, there's only so many different possible ways you could draw a face. But the amount of different outcomes there are is so many. You know, it's like thinking about, you know, when you shuffle a deck of cards. A deck of cards has 52 cards in it. So every time you shuffle a deck of cards, that deck of cards, the order of the deck of cards, has most likely, and I mean very, very, very likely, almost entirely likely, never existed before. Did you know that? If you shuffle a deck of cards, and you could sit there and you could shuffle decks of cards for hours and hours and hours. You could dedicate your whole life to shuffling decks of cards. You could just, from the moment you could even move your arms, you could just shuffle decks of cards. It would never be the same cards in all of human history, in all of card shuffles. That is how many different combinations of cards there could be in 52 cards in a deck. Now think of that, but with facial expressions that you could draw, which is way more than a 52 factorial, way more. That is the any possible outcome. Now, AI, to be fair to it, is not just random. It doesn't just make a random face from anything, because obviously of the things in this any possible outcome circle, some of it is just gobbledygook. You know, it could be something that barely even resembles a face. It could be just nothing. It could be just the most bland thing. AI knows to make something that resembles a face because it steals from really only human intended faces at some point. But if you'll notice on a lot of AI models, the faces look like really bad. And that's because they try to make an original face. Now, obviously all AI steals in some way, but in order to make something quote unquote original, it has to mash things together and apply a little bit of randomness to it to make itself original. And when that happens, you get the purple circle and the intersection of the purple circle and the red circle. So you will see that the red circle, which is the circle that represents human intended faces that a human artist would make and would understand resonates with the audience. Because when we human intend to make a face, if we're a skilled artist, or even if we're a not great artist, we have an idea of what a face should look like to invoke an emotion. And the reason that that is important is that it's something that AI can't really understand. So that's why I put the human intent circle to just barely overlap with the purple circle. I thought about making it not overlap with the purple circle at all, but I feel like that would be disingenuous. I think that there is, just by raw numbers, a possibility that the purple circle could in some way overlap with something that is human intent. I think it's like really unlikely and possibly impossible, but I had to be fair to it to say that it could overlap possibly. But that overlap is so small. Like if you look at what that overlap is and the fact that these numbers are in the, not even the trillions of like trillions times trillions of different outcomes that could exist in this. If you look at that, there is no real way that we could reasonably expect an AI to capture human intent just based off of a sheer numbers game. Unless there is one thing, and I think Seedance is cheating a little bit with this. Seedance, I think, is pushing this human intent a little further. They're pushing the human intent a little further into the purple. Now, how are they doing this? Are they making the AI reach some kind of singularity? No, they're just more aggressively stealing. It's just more close. Like before the AI models, they tried to not be so exact. And we saw too, like the Sora 2, they did like the SpongeBob stuff, the Sora stuff. This Seedance one is a lot closer, not to looking like it's human intended. It's closer to just what the human intended artist who originally made the thing made it like. So that's something that you're going to notice now that I've pointed it out. When you see this Seedance stuff, really think about, like, is it just ripping it right from, the show, or tweaking it slightly? Because in a way, is that really what we want? Like, are we ever going to get anything new out of that? They also did it with Naruto too. There was another, I did the same comparison with the Naruto. I mean, like, I don't even watch Naruto. This pose, I saw it, I'm like, that's like the Naruto pose. Like, a computer didn't create this. And these were the closest ones I could find. I feel like you could find this exact pose somewhere if you look through. I'm sure they have a lot of episodes, but this is like, it's super close. Like even the way that the teeth, like if you look really closely, there's like the little grooves on the teeth there, on the side of the teeth. I am not too concerned about a thing where its whole thing is just to take exact things and put them together. Like, it's bad. It's bad in a lot of ways, and people shouldn't do it, but that's not going to meaningfully challenge the arts in general. Like, and it's certainly not going to make Hollywood dead. Now, if we are concerned with garbage, then we should be concerned about garbage, because this does open up a big problem when it comes to just anything like fan made, like fan art, or just like the idea, I even talked about how like, haha, like it's Goku fighting One Piece. I know his name's Luffy. I'm just being a jerk. What if anime character fought anime character? It used to be that people would animate that. People would animate like Goku versus Superman. It was a thing that people would do, that people would make. And I think people still do it. I don't know if this has fully stopped that, because I'm sure there's still an appreciation for it being like, yeah, this is like a non-AI one. It really is something that I think is kind of robbed of us, to have it just get generated, because it doesn't really mean anything to generate it. It is worse to generate it because this doesn't give any opinion. So like, let's say, someone made Goku versus Superman. I think it's an animation. Like, I think someone actually did animate Goku versus Superman. Goku versus Superman is an opinion. Someone who made Goku versus Superman, they have an opinion on which character they think would win that fight, on what they would do in order to fight each other. This doesn't really say anything about that. What does this have? He does a Kamehameha, like the most generic attacks that they do. It's their main attacks. All of this is the main attacks. What does this actually say about what someone thinks about these characters? What does this actually reflect about these characters and the philosophies that they represent and what they represent? Goku versus Superman is not an interesting concept because, oh, they're like two strong guys who are going to punch each other or whatever. Goku versus Superman is an interesting concept because they're a similar kind of character. Goku and Superman are very similar characters. They're people who are aliens who are very powerful, and they use the fact that they're super powerful for good, which is a hopeful concept. It's an idea that someone who has power could be good. And the idea that the two characters who are the most famous for representing that concept fighting against each other, why are they fighting? Who would win? Which one is better at that? And why? That is the question that is being asked when you have Goku versus Superman. But this doesn't say any of that. The person just said, have a bunch of anime characters fight each other. It's not a question of the philosophies of Goku and Luffy and what they are against each other, and how they communicate that through how they would fight. It just is showing them fight. It's just, look at this thing, look at this figure. I'm especially sad for voice actors. They're already so underappreciated in the grand scheme of Hollywood. Now they have to worry about a synthetic voice taking their position. Why don't we talk about Mario? Like, look, we have a little Mario. This is an AI Mario. Yeah, they did the Mario. I'm not really going to address this just yet, but let's talk about Chris Pratt. Let's talk about Chris Pratt, even though he was just in a movie that was very pro AI. I'm not a big fan of Chris Pratt as a person, but let's talk about Chris Pratt for a second and him being the voice of Mario. That was like a whole thing, that Chris Pratt was the voice of Mario. Like, it was like a big thing in the advertising. They had a whole announcement for it where it's like the list of the celebrities who did the voices in Mario. It was a huge topic of discussion. There is a little bit of a problem with celebrity culture in that regard. The fact that so many movies, I used to argue this back before I was even a YouTuber, probably around the mid 2010s, when a lot of movies that were coming out were very big on what I would call the list of celebrities, where it's like, oh, this movie is just list of celebrities, and it just runs down the list. And that's like kind of what they're selling. It's kind of a big part of the product. And I can look at that cynically still, like that's kind of unfortunate that all we're really being sold is, hey, look at this person. But at the same time, that might be our savior here. Like that almost might be a good thing that, oh yeah, like, obviously I don't think Chris Pratt's a very good Mario, yeah, hot take. I know, obviously like you hear it and it's like, yeah, he's like being Chris Pratt and like a little bit of Mario, where it's like in the Mario movie, it's like, nah, I just want a guy who does a good Mario, a guy who's a good actor and does a good Mario voice. That's what I actually want in the Mario movie. And we didn't get that, we didn't get that because they wanted it to sound like the celebrity in question. And that's a problem, sure. But also that is what people care about. People care about the person behind the voice, even in animated movies. And even with like voice actors that like aren't like super, aren't like, because Chris Pratt isn't really a voice actor. He's a movie actor and they hired him to be the voice, which is a big problem where it's like you have these kids movies or these animated movies and all of the voice cast are celebrities who aren't really voice actors, because a voice actor is not the same as a celebrity. Obviously there's some celebrities who are great voice actors, but even like the voice actors, like the people who do the SpongeBob voices, these people can't be replaced by AI because they give performances that are specific to the moment that an AI is just not going to give. And I don't think there will ever be a time where what you would save by having the voice generated would be worth having that much of a quality hit on the voice acting performances. Because it's really, at the end of the day, it's not that difficult to pay a voice actor if you're a big production. And I just don't see any sort of big production making that switch and being like, yeah, we're just going to have AI be SpongeBob. And then you also get into the other thing where I said, again, even if it's 75% of people would like not care if Homer Simpson was just AI now, let's say 75% of people wouldn't care. That, I don't know if that's the number. That would be so dystopian. I'm sure it's more. I'm sure more people would care. Let's say that many people like didn't care that Homer Simpson was AI. You'd still lose enough that it would be not worth it for them to just hire someone who can do the voice, who can act the character. It just would not pan out. And if you understand anything about acting, about how acting works, about how production works, about how production marketing works, which are all things that I understand because I went to school for it, these things just do not fit in with it. It just does not fit in. However, you are correct in saying that you are worried for voice actors. If you are talking about small-time voice actors, if you are talking about the people who are not the most successful voice actors, your celebrities who do big movies, your Tom Kennys, your Tara Strongs, those people are going to be fine. And I'm glad they're going to be fine. They shouldn't lose their careers over AI. Even the celebrities, I'm not a big fan of, I said I'm not a big fan of Chris Pratt being Mario, but I'd rather Chris Pratt be Mario than an AI. That's for sure. At least as a human being, like what we should be worried about is smaller time voice actors or people who are moving up, because they're just going to get cut off. Because the thing about AI that I think is one of the most overlooked parts about it is just how it enables people who are in lower positions to be worse. If you take like something that's maybe a YouTube channel, a small time YouTube channel that's making animations or something, and they make AI do their voices, or a big one, indie games using AI voices is a huge problem. And obviously it hurts their reputation. Obviously it's something that gives them issues down the line, and it should, and we should call them out, and we should not buy their game. So what makes that so scary is that is a big reason why we shouldn't have generative AI. But at the same time, it's such an overlooked reason, such a hard thing to see because it's not in our face. It's not Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. That's going to get attention. But regular, little indie project using AI voices when they could have given an opportunity to a couple of up and coming voice actors, that's not going to get news. That's not going to get headlines. And it's just going to keep happening. And that's going to keep happening regardless of if Disney succeeds in their cease and desist. It's not going to matter even if Disney fights against unlicensed AI video platforms. Well, that's not going to solve a small-time project using AI when they could have given a chance to up-and-coming voice actors. And that is a domino effect. I mean, how many voice actors get their start doing small projects. I mean, literally all of them. I guess maybe some people have connections. Their first role is something big, but that's usually how you would start off, especially nowadays, something smaller. When AI is perfected, everything will look the same and boring, and people will stop buying tickets sooner or later, soon to fail. So that depends on what you mean by perfected. I think when you say perfected, you mean like it looks indistinguishable from movies, because it never will. It never will be able to capture human intent, at least not in an original way. I guess this Seedance thing is kind of a sideways punch, because it's like it's capturing the human intent because it's straight up taking it. It's just straight up taking it from these things. But that angers the copyright holders, so I don't really think that's going to last. I don't think that was a very good strategy on their part. What I'm concerned about in the idea of it being like perfected is it making like full movies, it making like these things. And I think that's never going to be accepted. It just isn't. Like you said, people aren't going to buy tickets. The thing that I am worried about is first draft AI, second draft human, where when it's perfected, what they're going to do is it's going to be something where it makes the first draft and then a human does the second one. This will probably only be a problem with animated properties. I really don't see this ever happening with live action. Again, the whole reason people spend money going to see a Tom Cruise movie is because that's actually Tom Cruise. He was actually filmed. He stood there in the moment. It's a little nerve-wracking because a lot of those movies can be CGI. A lot of the stunts can be CGI'd, although I think Tom Cruise prides himself on doing his own stunts, so he might not allow that, but other actors could. So it could be a problem where like you have a real actor, you pay the real actor comes in and does a scene, and then they go on the action stuff, and all of the action stuff is made by AI. Wow, that's scary. But it would be worse. Like, I think they know it would be worse. But what they're going to do, what I think that they're going to do that is scary, is they're going to generate a first draft, streamline the process, and then they're going to have a human go in and touch it up afterwards. And this is going to lead to a worse product that is now marketed as not AI, or AI was used to start it. I don't think they'll be that dishonest about it. I think it'd be hard to be that dishonest about it. But they'll try to make it normalized enough that it's like first draft AI, second draft human. And that's what I'm afraid of. We don't want that. We do not want that. We should fight against that. It's hard to argue against first draft AI, second draft human. You can, because the argument is about diminishing returns. It makes the product weaker, and if applied broadly, that makes all of the arts weaker. And that's a problem because the arts serve a social function of having us question our perspectives. That's the point of the arts, right? If the arts were about just wasting our time with entertainment, I don't think this stuff would be that big of a deal. But that's not what the arts are about. The arts are actually important in the sense that they teach us understanding. So many of your morals come from watching TV and movies. You know that, right? Like, you could think of a moral that you hold that you first heard about because of a SpongeBob episode. But AI makes that element of the arts weaker. Applied broadly, that is going to give us diminishing returns, and it will make us a less thoughtful and less empathetic population. And basically, if you're arguing with someone about why AI shouldn't be in the arts, you basically just kind of have to say that to be okay with any AI in the arts is to be okay with a less thoughtful and less empathetic population. You have to tie that position to that position because they're the same. They are inexorable. If you believe that AI is okay in the arts, you also believe that we should have a less thoughtful and less empathetic population. Those are tied together, and you should not back down on that, especially now, especially with all this. There's just no reason. There's just no reason to have, and I'm talking about generative AI, there's always like the thing where it's like, oh, like, well, what if, blah, 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 blah. I'm talking about generative AI, things that generate text, images, video, voices that sound like humans, and music. That is what I'm talking about. Things that generate that. You told it to make something like that, and it made that without a human touching it. Those are the things. There is no place for those in the arts. There's no place for those anywhere, by the way. They just shouldn't exist, because there's other problems with them too. Misinformation, harassing people. There's a lot of other issues with them, but I'm focusing specifically on the arts. In the way that it streamlines the process of creating something, you lose human intent, which again, to argue that you should streamline it is to argue against a more thoughtful and empathetic population. You are anti-progress if you believe that. You might not know that you're anti-progress, but now that I've told you, now you should know. And if you think that you're not, then you're going to have to refute that, which I have never seen someone do. I want to look at the Walter White stuff. Let's look at the Walter White stuff. Let's look at the Walter White stuff. So this is AI.
You think you're in control? Control? You're not.
A direct message from AI to all humans. Yeah, you got me. You got me. So honestly, it's kind of bad acting. I don't know. Am I being like biased here? I've seen Breaking Bad like 5 times. I don't think they would have kept that take. You think you're in control. Control. He sounds almost like scared too. Like he's supposed to be tough. The things that like, what a bad example of a character like to use to be like, yeah, like my AI is going to replace actors is like one of like the most varied roles in the past 20 years. Like you're going to use Walter White. Like it's a bit of a tall order, you know, like could have used like a sitcom character or something. The things that this man had to do, not this isn't a real, this is a fake thing that stole his likeness, but the things that Bryan Cranston did to get into the character, like watch an actual scene from the show of him like trying to be a tough guy or like begging for his life. It does not look like this. It does not look like this. You're not. Like it's off. It's off. It's dummy acting, you know? It's weak. And it always would be. It always would be weak. And the parts of it that I would say sound like good, you can kind of tell are lifted. Like it's so much more lifted from the actual show. It's so much more lifted from the guy. And is that like your checkmate on me? You know, checkmate to my little circle argument that, you know, like did the people who made Seedance see my video that I made a couple months ago where I created the circle argument and they're like, oh no, he's right. So let's just directly steal it, you know? And I think it's telling that the one that is directly stealing it is the one that is from China. That is not. China is pretty notorious for, you know, not really like respecting copyright. It's obviously a lot harder to deal with a company that is not under the jurisdiction of US copyright law. Obviously there's some things you can do, like clearly if a thing violates US law and it was from another I mean, they tried to ban TikTok, which was made by the same company, which I did disagree with. I didn't think that they should have banned TikTok and whatever nonsense that was. Or when they tried to, and they banned it for like a day. If it's violating US copyright law, like there are things that can be done, but there's also like an idea of like, if it's like just over there and it's not under the jurisdiction of US copyright law, it could just run rampant, but it would just be like the bootlegs, you know, you get the bootlegs and stuff and wouldn't really have any meaningful effect. It just would be an annoying thing. Like, I can't really think of a meaningful way of properly stopping it coming from another country other than just make it illegal for people to use. Like you can't have the program in America because it violates copyright law or because we hopefully, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Hopefully we make generative AI illegal, which I think will happen at some point. I don't think it's going to happen under our current government, but I think it can happen. Probably more on the grounds of misinformation. It's probably more why I think it should be illegal just based off of protecting the arts. Like that would be like the reason I would argue for it, but it'll probably get most of its guardrails off of a public safety thing, which is fine. It's, you know, whatever gets rid of it. But it being from another country will give it sort of that issue. You know, you're going to get black markets, you're going to get people using programs to use it from the other country illegally. But even that, like, it's something, you know, you're just doing everything you can to stop it, to get rid of it. You know, you're doing everything you can. There's obviously going to be a lot of things that we don't have power over, but that doesn't mean that we should accept it broadly. Hear me out. I'm so grateful that technology like this exists. As an aspiring filmmaker with little to no budget, tech like this can easily turn a script into a proof of concept without the need of experience or expensive tech. Okay, I'm going to address this. I'm going to address people like this. Here's what's wrong with this person's perspective. They like directing and writing, but they don't care about acting. They obviously don't care about those other parts of it. So there's a thing with AI that I think is a really common problem, where people will take the things that they like to do, the things that they are passionate about, do that. And then because the arts, especially making a film, requires so many different kinds of talents, they will take all of the talents that they don't have and be like, oh, well, like a computer can just do that. Why would it not be the other way around? Like, why not just take why not replace you at that point without the need of experience or expensive tech? Well, you know what? You should have experience before you make a movie. You know, like I don't like this idea, this like democratizing the arts. You're not because you're not making it. Let's be clear here. You an aspiring filmmaker. Well, you're not a filmmaker because you didn't make a film. You told something else to make a film. So you're not a filmmaker. And I know it says proof of concept, but that's not good either. Like you're gonna use this stuff to generate a proof of concept, and then you're going to make the whole movie without AI? Is that your plan? Because the point of the proof of concept is to prove that you can execute the concept. If it's a proof of concept, that means that you're going to have to film it the way that it would be filmed if it were funded. How are you going to prove that you can execute the concept if you aren't making it, if you didn't make it? Why in this world where you can just put a storyboard in and have AI do the whole thing, why would you wouldn't even be able to be a filmmaker? And that's another thing about people like this. They never consider how things like this would work if adopted broadly. They only care about their immediate gratification. Oh, I immediately get to feel like a filmmaker. Well, you know what? You didn't earn being a filmmaker. Just because you wrote a script, hey, it's hard to write a script. Good job. You wrote a script. You don't just get to have the movie. That's not how it works. You don't get the next step. And yeah, it's unfortunate when you don't have access to actors, to crews, to all that sort of stuff, you know? And it would be great if we fought for a better world where people would be a little more ready to have access to that stuff. We had a little bit more equality. If we had a little bit more respect for the arts broadly. You know what's not going to help us get there? A world where all of our movies are made by AI and our perspectives are never challenged to think about that stuff. Yeah, why would you need their funding if you can just prompt it yourself? And even if they did fund it, why would anyone watch your stuff if they can prompt their own stuff? Yeah, like look, see how you go down the rabbit hole where it's like, once you have this, what's the point of you? We'll still have real actors, directors, storyboards, and camera work handled by humans, maybe using some 3D proxies for reference. But the game changer will be using AI as a skin or filter over everything. It'll save millions in post-production. AI as a skin or filter over everything. You know, and I'm kind of mocking this person because they're doing a little bit of, they're Messiah complexing a little, doing a little bit of a Messiah complex here. You know, game changer, you know, all this stuff. I mean, what they're describing isn't exactly generative AI. It could be like you like you did like Avatar and you like act the role and then it just like immediately makes you the Avatar guy. The text is AI generated. This comment is AI generated because of the M dash. Is it the M dash? Are you saying it because of the M dash? You know that the M dash doesn't actually mean something's written by AI, right? There's M dashes in like classic literature. Though I kind of see what you're saying. I don't know. People really use AI to write a Reddit comment, I guess. My enemy is generative AI specifically. There are things that a certain technology can provide that could be game changing. But I feel like this person, even though they're saying using AI as a skin or filter, like I think that this person, while this exact thing, if applied under strict regulation, there could be something there. It'll save millions in post-production. Would that be true? I don't know. I don't buy it. I feel like this doesn't make a lot of sense. I feel like there's just stuff that you need to do that is human intended when you're VFXing a character. We already have mocap. We have motion capture already. It's been a thing for a long time. I think this person is just describing motion capture and maybe a more advanced version of motion capture. That's fine. And advanced motion capture. Don't really need to even call it AI at that point. I hate the term AI so much because it's not AI. It's not intelligence. We have not created intelligence. It doesn't exist. I actually think Hollywood will be the last place to fully embrace AI. That part of the industry has very strong unions that are, on the most part, strongly anti-AI and are there to help defend people's livelihoods. True, we were just talking about that. We will probably see the first crew-led AI strikes and industrial action this year because of it. Oh, please, that would be awesome. I mean, already the last SAG and writer strike was a little bit about AI. It wasn't all about AI, but AI was a part of it, and they kind of made a lot of concessions on it, to be honest. New clauses are being drawn up to either compensate the person if affected by AI, or to guarantee some level of human presence. Yeah, and I don't like this. I do not agree with this. I mean, like, obviously, I don't think that AI should just take from them and they shouldn't be compensated. I think that AI just shouldn't take from them at all. I think that paying the person to make an AI of them is not an answer. It's not an answer. Let's not forget the big A-list stars still have a major pull in the public. A lot of these actors refuse to act against green screen, preferring real locations, real light, and real practical effects to act against. Is that true? I only know that Tom Cruise likes to do his own stunts. That's like the only one that I know. There are actors that refuse to act against green screen. I know Sir Ian McKellen was unhappy about green screen in The Hobbit, I want to say. But that's a deeper story than you think. I think it had to do with not that he was acting in front of a green screen, but because he wasn't acting the scene with the co-star, and that harms the performance. It does harm a performance to not act against the co-star. You know, it's a great example of this. If you've ever seen in The Sopranos, spoiler alert for season 3 of The Sopranos, I guess. In the 3rd season of The Sopranos, the actor who played Tony's mother died. She died in real life between season 2 and season 3. So in season 3, they had the episode where her character died, but they wanted to have one more scene between her and Tony. And this is in like 2001. The way they did it is they CGI'd a bunch of old lines. Like literally every line in the scene from Tony's mother is a thing that she said in a previous episode. James Gandolfini, who was the person who was actually there, the other lines were, just dubbed in, CGI'd. James Gandolfini, who is a phenomenal actor. His performance in that show is unforgettable. In that scene, you can tell he's struggling to connect in this, and especially all of his scenes with his mother in season 1 and 2. And he's struggling to connect with her. I think they should have just not done that scene. I don't think it was necessary. I think they should have just written around it. So maybe that's what this person is talking about, refusing to act against green screen, referring for. We need to bring back practical effects. I don't think like CGI needs to be like outlawed like AI should be. Like CGI can have its place. I don't think, because CGI requires real artists. It's like digital music, you got digital music, but and digital music is totally fine and valid. There's nothing wrong with making digital music because it requires human intent. Make digital music, not AI music, digital music, like on a synthesizer. Someone playing a guitar right in front of you, someone playing a violin right in front of you. There's something to it, and practical effects need to come back. That's not even an AI thing. Maybe our backlash to AI will help us get back to that, or we just need practical effects now, and again, I'm not like a really heavily anti-CGI person. I appreciate a good practical effect. If you ever seen the Little Shop of Horrors from the 80s, this was made by my fiance M. It's a little Audrey too. Because we watched the 80s Little Shop of Horrors not too long ago. If you watch that movie, and it's practical effects. It's Frank Oz, that sort of Muppets of the plant. It's so well done. So what they were able to do with practical effects. They will be unlikely to accept any kind of AI involvement in our contract. Man, I hope so. It's scary to be let's rely on these people to take a stand. I guess that's all we have. I guess that is all we have with anything. Independent creatives and regular folk with big ideas. This is really exciting. It opens up so many possibilities. No, it doesn't. It opens up nothing. You're not independent creative. Dude, if you're an independent creative, you are ruining your chances if you use AI. You're really you're making yourself look like a hack, and I don't know how much of the population cares or doesn't care, but you're already alienating so much. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And regular folk with big ideas. I can't stand this like, oh yeah, AI is going to empower like the proletariat, you know? And I'm someone who's very like fight the power, you know? I'm a leftist. Like I'm not like here to be on the side of like big corporations or something. But honestly, I think that this regular folk with big ideas stand up for AI. You know what it's like? You know, it's like the same people who made like the Soviet Union and stuff. It's like, it's a weird comparison. I know I'm talking about proletarian regular, but it's like, it's kind of like that. It's like, yeah, this is going to empower the working man. And then it just gives power to power. Like that's basically what you're doing. Whereas, you know, real actual socialism, if you're going to call it that, you know, let's not even put any strong politics on it. Let's just say real equality, you know, that's something anyone can agree on. You know, what actually stands up for the little guy is not going to be AI. It's going to be more arts programs. It's going to be empowering people to make art themselves. Why don't we become a more social society who values the arts? Why don't we invest in arts programs? You know, these people like this guy up here who said, whatever, I can't find him, but the guy above who said that, oh, I'm a filmmaker, but I need to generate the actors because I can't find actors. Like, why don't we have more, maybe if we were more social, maybe if we didn't have to drive 40 minutes to see any other person in our lives, and we didn't cut all of our arts programs in every high school, unless you're rich, then maybe we'd actually, you know, maybe that would actually help regular folk with big ideas. Not standing up for the little guy. Give me a break. They did another Walter White one.
Hey, sir, you can't be back here.
That acting was awful. Sir, you can't, like that. Sir, you can't be back. That was just bad acting. Like, and that's not a celebrity, so that's not taking it right from someone.
Hey, sir, you can't be back here.
Someone pointed out the door just opens. He's punching Saul.
You son of a bitch!
That's got to be like exactly from a Breaking Bad line, or at least really close. Like that's so I like I've heard that before. That you son of a bitch. That's so I've heard that before. Or it's just that's what the Seedance is doing. It's really directly ripping from the things that it's taking from. And like sure, like in general, like this looks like it could be a real shot. Like sure, but what's the point? What's the point? If you were ever going to make this shot in a way that would meaningfully be in a movie or a TV show, making it AI isn't going to matter because you're going to lose out on so much. The fact that it's not really the actor means that people aren't going to care about it. That's already a big problem. The performances will be stunted unless they're lifted exactly from things that it already stole from. There's no, like, just because it looks like it could be a real room or a real this, I always knew it was going to do that. I always knew, like, of course it was going to get to that point where it could do that. These technological advancements are being muddied by all of these awful things that we're trying to do with it. We're trying to ruin the arts with it. We could do so much with something, the capabilities of being able to identify an exact performance, an exact facial expression from an episode of a TV show. We could use that kind of search in much more life-changing ways than making this garbage. Walks through the front door of a restaurant, sir, you can't be back here. Yeah, you know, like you can kind of clown on it getting things wrong too. I wonder if that will ever get like totally fixed. It might not. Like that might almost be a little bit of the circle argument, right? I mean, that's not like, I'm not going to make a strong claim on it here, but it's not so much human intent, but it's more just like margin for error. Because a human knows when something is an error. Like a human would know, walks through the front door of a restaurant, sir, you can't be back here. Like a human would clock that. And AI probably can't. There's probably always going to be like little mistakes. But again, if you do first draft AI, second draft human, that solves that. So That's why that stuff is so scary. It does not solve human intent. It does not solve human intent. Cool on first glance, breaks down if you look at any detail. I can't wait to manifest new seasons of Breaking Bad or any show for that matter at will. Yeah, we need to talk about this. Let's talk about that. I hope for a fanfics of Game of Thrones later seasons. This is religious thinking. Now, what do I mean by that? I have nothing against religious people. When I say religious thinking, that is not an indictment on the faithful. When I say religious thinking, I mean a belief in the concept of a specific kind of perfection. So when you think of the idea of heaven and hell, if you think about it for a little bit, you can kind of tell that the idea of heaven and hell as we understand them is very human made and idealized, you know, not to say that anything that you believe in is like disproved or not true, which like, even if you're let's say a Christian, you know, like heaven is not described as what I'm about to describe it as. So of what we commonly understand it as, if you actually like read the holy books or whatever, our idea of heaven and hell is very idealized. It's the idea of someone dies and that's very tragic. And we don't really know what happened to them or what they're experiencing. If they're experiencing anything at all, we don't know. They're just gone. And that's very scary for us. But the fact that we don't know also gives us the freedom to come up with what happened to them. So we believe that they went to the perfect place of all of the perfectness and all that. On the flip side, you have hell, and that's just the way that you explain what's like, well, what about that guy I don't like who died? It's like, well, he didn't go to the perfect place, right? But that's neither here nor there. It's not really part of the analogy. Just talking about specifically the idea of heaven. When I was a kid, I went to something called CCD. I was raised Catholic. And what CCD is, it's an after school thing where you go and they like teach you about, you know, like Jesus or whatever. And that's like the whole thing. And, you know, it was like every Wednesday, and every Wednesday I'd like be done with school. And it's like, time for more school. And I'd be like, you know, and, you know, and you're a kid or whatever. And there was this one time where I had a CCD teacher and they taught us about the idea of heaven. And the guy said that everyone in heaven gets a big mansion. That's what he said. And I was like 10. And I thought that was nonsense. And I'm not saying that I was some like raging skeptic when I was 10. I certainly wasn't. But that stuck out to me. That I was like, nah, there's no way. Like, what do you mean? It just really rang to me. And obviously, like, that's not, again, this is not me like trying to be, I'm not disproving that, because that's not biblical, by the way. It's not like, I'm not disproving any like scripture or whatever. That's not in the Bible, that like heaven is not described biblically. It's just said that it's a kingdom of the Father or whatever. It's not actually described what heaven is. It's not said that it's a place where you get a mansion. That is not biblical. But we make it up as something that we believe. Everyone gets a mansion in heaven. That's just one example, you know, of that sort of stuff. That's what I think this is. This idea of, I can't wait to manifest new seasons of Breaking Bad, or I hope for a fanfics of Game of Thrones. This is a heaven complex. It's an idea that there is this thing that is going to give them everything that they want. Because in a way, AI aside, let's set aside AI and that it doesn't have human intent. It makes things that are worse. It ruins the arts, all that stuff. Let's set all of that aside and just look at what these people think it is. Because this person does think that. This person thinks that eventually that this tech will get to the point where it will just be like, oh yeah, let's see Breaking Bad season 7 or season 6. So there's only 5 seasons. Let's see Breaking Bad. Let's see Breaking Bad season 3, but it had 20 episodes and the story was even longer. So we get to see even more of Breaking Bad. That's what this person believes. We know that that will not exist. We know that that can't be done. I mean, I guess it theoretically could be done like as with actors. Like if you if you just produced season 3 of Breaking Bad and like got all the actors together and they just act like they'd be a little older, you know? Like, I guess you could just do that. But I mean, like with AI, it's not possible. It doesn't exist to be able to do that. There's no version of an AI, no matter what, unless you made it sentient, which again, we shouldn't do, that would do that. Because this is a heaven complex. It is a belief in something that is perfect, that gives them something. Because as a consumer, if you don't know how something was made, that wouldn't really matter as a consumer. I get unlimited Breaking Bad episodes. I love this show so much. I get to see more of it. Yeah, if you don't think about what the actual consequences of that would be, then yeah, that sounds great. That sounds amazing. I love Breaking Bad. I would love more episodes of it. Obviously not through AI, that it's a net negative. Or I hope for fanfics of later Game of Thrones season, you know? We have trouble, as humans, we have trouble accepting that things end. And we especially have trouble accepting that things end badly. So Breaking Bad ended pretty good, but it ended. It's over. But this person wants it to continue. Game of Thrones ended badly, but this person wants it to end goodly. This is a heaven complex. It is an idea that there is this perfect thing. If you believe in a perfect heaven or whatever, that is at least unfalsifiable, whereas this is falsifiable. I have falsified it. It will not create Game of Thrones later seasons. It will not manifest new seasons of Breaking Bad, at least not in a way that is in any way acceptable or enjoyable at all. That would be like what this person is imagining is new seasons of Breaking Bad that are just as good as the original, or the end of Game of Thrones. Like, this person actually thinks that they will plug into AI, make a good Game of Thrones season 8, and it just will. Maybe they're not that stupid. Maybe they do think that you would have to tweak it, or maybe they do think that you would have to write a script. Maybe they accept that. I don't know. I don't know why you would think that you would have to write a script to make it good, and then the acting would be perfect. Like, you could see how those things contradict each other, because the same things, human intent, that goes into making the script good is what goes into making the acting good. But maybe I'm seeing a lot less acceptance of AI scripts. I feel like because writing is like everywhere, there is just an idea of like, oh yeah, AI can't write like people. But I don't think the masses have fully understood that it can't act yet, mostly because a lot of people can't even recognize bad acting. Like, they will fall for it and they will not really care. This is Mario fighting Mickey Mouse. So, why? Why? What does this mean? Mario fighting Mickey Mouse. It means nothing. It means nothing. No one made it. This was created by no one. It means nothing. It is hollow. If you like this, you are hollow. Do people not remember a rich man going to heaven is less likely than a camel going through the eye of the needle? Are you talking about the heaven complex? The theology teacher who said that. By the way, I had nothing against that theology teacher. By the way, I don't want to like they were fine at their job. You know, I just thought it was silly. I didn't think it was like problematic or anything. I just thought it was silly. You know, I just thought it was a silly way to do it. It wasn't like evil or nothing. I would going to heaven be rewarded with earthly goods. Yeah, wouldn't like the point be that you're like, that you wouldn't it be better in a hypothetical heaven that you would be a being that doesn't care about living in a mansion rather than being a being that lives in a mansion? At that point, you're getting real ethereal with it. That's a really good comparison, actually. People act like this is everything they could ever. Oh, yeah. AI and religious thinking. Again, and I think I'm a very good person to criticize this because I'm someone who is not anti-religion. There are a lot of people who are progressive like myself who can be a little hard on religion. And rightly so. Like, there are a lot of things that religious people have done in the name of religion that is very bad, that I acknowledge. If you've seen my my SpongeBob video on the topic, where I talked about the magic conch and all that. But I do like to separate the idea of people having faith and people engaging in, I guess, what I would call religious thinking. So having faith, you can have faith in things like a God that are positive in the sense that you just appreciate You just appreciate what life. I have a relative who is religious. My aunt, and we had a lovely dinner with her last week, and we talked a bit about AI because I'm a YouTuber and I cover a lot of AI stuff. So it just was something that came up in conversation. They were very agreeable, with like the stuff I said about human intent, about all that. They were not. They were. Uh, I would say principally as against AI as I am, not that they know all of the stuff about it, which I wouldn't expect any random layman to know. But we had a very lovely conversation about it. And my aunt told a story about how she was in her classroom. She teaches religion at a Catholic school. And she was in her class and she put on like a background thing, like an ambiance rain sounds or whatever. In the way she described it was that it was a bunch of birds arranged in a rainbow. She was like, "Oh, it's like it's a beautiful rainbow birds, So, look what she said, like, look what God gave us or whatever, like looking at the thing." And one of her students told her that it was AI, and she was devastated that she had an appreciation for this thing and it wasn't made by someone with the same appreciation that she held in her heart. And I think that was really telling, that this person who is a faithful person sees AI as something that makes it harder to connect to that. So when I call certain things about AI a messiah complex or religious thinking, that is not anything against religious people. In fact, there are religious people who I think should see AI as, something that is maybe not of the devil if you're going to be too nuts about it, but of the cynical human not using our free will correctly, if you're going to think of it in that way. It's a little unfinished, but this is something my fiance drew. She actually started drawing it at the dinner table when my aunt was talking about this thing, where she drew just her own birds. This one's not colored in yet. It's supposed to be green, I think. So it's like they kind of following, a little bit of a rainbow color. Honestly, I think the fact that it's a work in progress is even better for like what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Because it's human made. It's being made by a person. And I just think that this is what is at stake. This is what's at stake. Losing this. Because AI is just going to make a worse version that doesn't mean anything, that doesn't resonate. And because AI can make it so much faster and at so much higher volume, it's going to drown out anything like this. And if you think that there is no value in that we should just drown it out, that there's some kind of net positive to that, I'm curious to see your arguments for why you think that we should have a less thoughtful and less empathetic population.